Who knew that a Thursday night in the NBA could get us all absolutely excited about dipping into the pool? Michael Bolton?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I'm excited to announce that I've been appointed to the chief of leadership and performance at Morris Finance. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Place your first $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. We have also got a newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com. Get all the information about your favorite team. Sign up over there, LockedOnDaily.com. I also want your thumb and your double bang, and you listen and you comment and you view and all that sort of stuff over here as well. So make sure you're sticking around and partaking in the festivities. That is this Day 3 recap in the NBA Thursday's games. We'll get into the action. There were 4 games on. We had a couple of teams playing their second game of the season. Let's just get in and bang out a little bit of news to start things off. Only a couple of things. I've covered most of the injury updates on the preview show earlier today, so you can go check that out over there. But some other interesting stuff is this Kawhi Leonard investigation, not necessarily investigating him, but that one of his personal trainer, I don't know, that's not the right word, but has filed a lawsuit against the Clippers alleging them to have tampered with Kawhi Leonard in free agency, to have partaken in medical procedures that were detrimental to Kawhi's health. It's from Chris Haynes' Twitter. You can go check that out. All the court documents there. There's some outrageous comments. Some of them are like outrageous in that, like, Kawhi should have taken 730 days to return from his ACL. That's Jonathan Isaac's music. But given his history there and the way that the Clippers actually had forced him to play through things that maybe he wasn't like ready to do, torn ankle ligaments and concussions and all the knee stuff, it is a terrible read. I've got no idea how true any of it is. Of course, the Clippers have denied any of it, but just the stuff in there is just like, wow, okay. It's a ballsy thing to do, and we'll see where it goes. It probably leads to not much in terms of where we are fantasy-wise, but it is something that happened. We'll see where we go with Kawhi and his health, which I am obviously very skeptical about. But it is an interesting read nonetheless, just to get perspectives from somebody who's obviously not with the organization anymore and has had history with Kawhi about some of the stuff and that he's gone through that we don't hear about. So when we're all popping off, not all of us, some of us are popping off about soft athletes, and we might have a national platform on national TV night for the NBA talking about players being soft for sitting out games. I don't know. That's not me. That might be you, one very specific person. Maybe have a read of this stuff and at least get some common sense regarding it. The other thing is that after I did record that daily preview show, we did get Warriors injury report notes pop up with 3 key players, all questionable: Steph, Draymond, and DeAnthony Melton. Now, I don't expect all those guys to sit, but they're all questionable. And every one player who jumps out of the rotation due to injury, that means that 12-man comes down. Now, that doesn't mean that Lindy Waters, Hall Pass legend, or Guy Santos jumps into that rotation. It just means that 12 becomes 11, becomes 10, becomes 9. I don't expect them all to be out, honestly. But Steph, Draymond, Melton, all currently listed questionable for the Warriors. So just watch that. That would increase your Pajemskis, Hield, Wiggins, Kuminga, Jackson Davis on that complete rotation mess of a team, which is going to continue to be a rotation mess. I am pretty certain of that part of it. Let's take a look at some trends now across fantasy basketball waiver wires over the last 24 hours. The most added players, the 6 most added players, number 1 is Juice McBride, who, okay. I don't get it. I'll say that now. I knew this would happen. I knew people would chase an 80% shooting night. I like Juice a lot as a player. It's a 10-game Friday. The Knicks don't play on the weekend at all. Who is he starting over on your team? I don't get it. But that's okay. I don't have to. Keldon Johnson was streamed in for today. He sucks, and that's okay. Santi Aldama, Obviously, Jaren Jackson remains out for Friday, or he's doubtful, so he's out. So just keep rolling with Santi. I don't think you're going to get the same thing you got on Wednesday, but also that's okay. Trey Mann really popped off. We loved the performance. And now Brandon Miller, Mark Williams are out. Josh Green might remain out. So Mann has that short-term appeal at least. Dyson Daniels, one of the most added. The only reason he's not at the top there is because he was already rostered in too many leagues. But yeah, he's a must roster. And then Karis LeVert, I also believe, just should be rostered at this point. He probably, almost definitely, won't shoot as well as he did in the opening game. But the opportunity's there. He can provide. Go for it. See where we go. So there are some of those ones which basically all of those moves make sense to a degree as to why they would have happened. The 6 most dropped players in fantasy basketball. Number 1 is Superman Khalil Ware. Not only was he behind Bam Adebayo, but he was behind the absent Kevin Love and Thomas Bryant. So you drop him. I think he's better than all those guys, not Bam. But that doesn't matter because when we get the inkling that he moves into a larger role, then we add him. We don't need to hold all the way through. The next most dropped, Kevin Porter Jr. Will Kevin Porter Jr. play 13 minutes a night? I've got no idea. Will Kevin Porter Jr. be worth it if James Harden is out? Yeah, I think so. But he's also bad, he's inefficient, and they use him strictly as Harden's backup and not at all in any other position. And the fact that they did not do that, despite it being an overtime game, despite Kawhi not being there, means that I just don't think there's high upside in it. So move on. People dropped Donovan Clingan. Yep. I didn't know that he was going to play 13 minutes, but I also didn't think that there was going to be anywhere near enough for him to have impact straight away. Another one of these guys that at some point, yeah, we will use him. And we will have probably 350 players to become fantasy usable throughout the season. You have to hold on to them all waiting for that chance to happen. Terrence Mann, that one, what are you doing? Why was he even rostered to begin with? We know who Terrence Mann is. Are people still hanging on to a 40-point playoff game through 5 years ago?
Get that garbage out of here.
Gary Trent and Andrew Nembhard were dropped. They were pretty lackluster. I actually get that. Now, there are some interesting schedule positions coming up for these guys over the next couple of days. They are, I think, going to be on and off the waiver wire all through the season. And I think that's about right for the type of players that they are. But, you know, that part of it there, I think, makes quite a bit of sense. We've got the 4 games we're going to talk about. We'll get into them in a second. But today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on 2 individual player projections with a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is also the only real money daily fantasy platform that has an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If a player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, well, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. It is also the best place to get that real money sports action, so join over 10 million users and sign up today. And when you sign up today, you can get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So go and download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I feel like I might be showing my age or uncoolness, although you think I'm cool. I know you think I'm cool. I'm very, very cool. What the hell does run your game mean? Prize Picks? What does that mean? I don't get it. Run your game? Is that supposed to mean something? I don't know. Maybe it means something, and I just, honestly, I am completely out of the loop. That is possible. Now, day 3, NBA season. 3rd change to the way the box score looks. I don't think we're moving it on from here, and I think, if you're watching this on YouTube, I think we might have nailed it. Let's go. Boston took on the Washington Wizards, and they win it 122 to 102. A very comfortable victory. This is going to be a very common theme for this Celtics juggernaut. Jaylen Brown had 27 and 8 with 4 steals, shot the ball well, fantastic. Jason Tatum, 25 and 11 with 6 assists. Unfortunately was bad from the line for some reason, but whatever. He was really good. Maximum Derek White, only 29 minutes, but 19, 4 and 4. In this one, it wasn't a big Al Horford night. In fact, it was a bad Al Horford night. 0 points, 5 rebounds. That's not good for a points league, absolutely. I think he is still worth holding, but in a points league, it is definitely more debatable. His value in category leagues is much higher than points leagues, and if you wanted to move on to get other streamers in points, totally doable. Totally okay. I also have already got the question, is Drew Holiday droppable? And the answer is no, But there were people that were drafting him very high, and I never understood it. This is not a good game from Drew. 7 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Obviously not good. You do not drop him, but it's a level of expectation of where you think that Drew was. Because it was another blowout, we got more minutes of Peyton Pritchard. 28 in this one. 15 points with 5 threes. He shot the ball a lot. He shot the ball well. When it's a blowout and they play the Pistons next game, you're going to get more Pritchard. And when it's not a blowout, you're going to get fewer minutes of Pritchard. So he's a stream guy. And a great stream for the first 2 low-volume days. I'm not going to have the same level of confidence on a high-volume day of using him or against a team that's good. But this team is so good, they're going to cook a lot of teams. They introduced even more variables to the center position with the Pastel Danata, Nemesh Keita, jumping in and getting 12 and 7. That's Yves Misi's line. 71% from the field, no blocks, but it was him, it was Tillman, and it was Cornette. They used 3 centers off the bench. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting debacle/decision anytime anything happens with Horford. They got 3 usable options there. Not much else going on. Shout out to the bloke in my comments who told me that the replacement for Sam Hauser is going to be Drew Peterson. Well, I guess he did play. He went scoreless in 4 minutes, but he had 2 blocks. So you're looking good, my guy. Good shout from you, I guess, even though he didn't play until garbage time. We're going to talk about the other side of this game because that's what we do. We got the Washington Wizards part of it. And let's do it. Let's get excited. How about your mate, my mate, delivering 1 year too late, Jordan Poole? 32 minutes, 26 points, 6 threes, 4 assists, 4 steals, and a block. He shot 53% from the field, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that how right I am. I'm not, because I'm not. Because if this was any other player, and it is, and I do treat every player the same way. You might not think I do, but I do. This is not sustainable. He's not getting 4 steals. He's not shooting 53%. None of that is happening. So, enjoy it. I can have a laugh at it. The 27 usage makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I would like more assists. The defensive stats are just a complete bonus and you can't rely upon them. It's great to get a good game, and what I'm most interested in is 32 minutes and 27 usage, which were things we did not get last season. They also chucked a little bit of a spanner into the works because there was a debate to me. Like, I thought for sure they'd start Jonas Valanciunas, and then about a week before the season I went, hang on, they're doing something different here. They're moving Valanciunas to the bench, so I don't know that this works, but they were starting Keyshawn George. Instead, they flipped it up, and it was Bubbles Carrington that went in there instead. Now, Bub started. He had 3 points in 26 minutes. He had 2 blocks and then hurt his ankle at the end. Bub Carrington is a player that I like. I like his long-term upside, but he is a point guard playing off-ball as a rookie who is not going to be useful on your team. At least he got to be the 3rd rookie who started a game for us, because that is all we got, and 2 of them played for this team. I would not add Bub Carrington in 10 or 12. Honestly, not even sure I'd do it in 14-team leagues. If Bub misses the next game, I think we might get another rookie starting. I think Keyshawn George might start, and I don't think we would add him there. Speaking of rookies who started, Alex stunk. He was bad. He was really bad. 2 points on 14%, but I like 5 rebounds. I like 2 blocks. I like that he started at center. He might not like that, but stiff shit. Do not drop Alex based on this game. Bilal Coulibaly had 8, 6, and 6 with 1 steal, and there are a couple of ways to look at this. I love that he got a steal. I love that he started, which we all expected. But he took 2 shots. He did get to the line 8 times, so some of those are shots very clearly. But that is a level of uninvolvement that is concerning. And especially for a points league. What do you need in points leagues? Minutes and usage. What did he not get? Usage. And I don't think he's this guy that's going to demand usage. So in a points league, I'm not really sure that we're looking at Bilal as a must-roster guy. In categories, yeah, you probably do. Back to the Valanciunas question, the big fella played only 20 minutes and he had 18 and 5. This is what he does. But he only got 20 minutes. He had 28 usage, he had 18 and 5, no defensive stats. That's good. If you have him, you should be worried. But I would just hold to wait and see the direction they go here. Because they could also, if Bub doesn't play next game, maybe they go back to JV. I don't know if they're fully committed to Saar being their center. I don't know. So I would maybe just hold on Valanciunas. Kuzma was bad. 12 points, 16 shots. Somehow he had a steal and a block, so count your lucky stars with that one. And because Valanciunas is the backup center, that means that Marvin Bagley is just not going to play. Or maybe not very much. He played 10 minutes. So there are, for the love of God, some people rostering Marvin Bagley in 12-team leagues, and you guys need help. You don't need to do that in 10, 12, 14, 16 team leagues. Maybe him and Marvin Bagley the fourth, James Wiseman, can talk about what to do now, or now that Wiseman's out for the year. Corey Kispert, people have him in 12 team leagues as well, and you absolutely do not need to do that. In fact, I would go as far as saying you absolutely should not do that. 6 points, 24 minutes, there's not enough. There's not enough for him to do, and also, he's not good enough to do it. Yeah? Let's do the next game. That would be a pretty smart way to go about this, I think, because it is the first time we've seen these two teams in action, the Dallas Mavericks and your San Antonio Spurs, and I am waiting for the overreactions. Because Victor Wembanyama played 28 minutes, he had 17 and 9 and shot 28%. He blocked one shot. One. Is it a good game? No. I'm not going to sit here and piss on you and tell you it's raining. Like, it wasn't a good game. It's not a disaster. Let's also be fair. He shot 18 times. He's not probably going to be a 60% shooter. We talked about some of those deficiencies, and the way that my Durant metric worked, if you're a basketball monster, maybe you can see that, it actually pushed Victor down to number 5 player for head-to-head leagues because of the way of blocks and the way they distribute, right? But take him 1, take him 2. I have no problem with that. This is a bad game. Cool. We move on. No more discussion. I think the discussion you're going to want to have is about bubbles. Julian Champagnie popped off for 18 and 7 with 4 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks on 58% shooting. Now, last season, Champagnie started all year. I maintain that Champagnie is a better player than Keldon Johnson. I will maintain that. But when he started last season, he played like 20, 21 minutes because Devin Vassell was there. But Vassell is not there now. And they probably needed some of that extra usage stuff that Champagnie was able to do. And I think he's actually a really good defender. I'm a little worried about the long-term viability of this with bubbles, about what happens when Vassell returns, but I guess you could argue that they could move Barnes to the bench. I don't think they would. But for now, I'm not going to expect that he shoots 58%. That would be foolish. I'm not going to expect 2 blocks. Also foolish. But 27 minutes is actually doable. And if I'm in anything deeper than 12s, that's an auto ad. And I would consider him in 12-team leagues. Julian Champagnie. The other interesting thing, what was Chris Paul's minutes? 29. He only had 3 points on 17%, which is terrible, obviously, but 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal. You absolutely hold and you feel good about that. But what that means is you do not feel good about Steph Castle, who did end up playing 18 minutes. And he had 8, 3, and 5. And you might be encouraged. But again, he shot poorly. He generated no defensive stats. He hit no threes and he was bad at the line. But he played the final 6 minutes in the garbage time unit. He played with Malachi Branham and Sandro Mamakilishvili and Charles Bassey. That's where he got the extra minutes. He was a 13-minute player. And like I said a million times after ESPN had him ranked 97th, or people were drafting him in the drafts, I do not see enough. He will not get backup point guard minutes. I thought he may have started, but as soon as they put Champagnie in that spot for Vassell, and I also don't think he is good. Right? Whether that is right or not, no way of knowing at this point. But I have absolutely no reason to believe that you need to be rostering Steph Castle in a 12-team league.
Get that garbage out of here.
I wouldn't even roster him in a 14-teamer. I don't think his fantasy game is very good. I don't think he's got star upside as a real-life player. And it is just going to take time for him to develop into anything. And I don't think you need to wait for that, because I don't think the returns this season are going to be super good. We will always revisit this with all of these players, but yeah, I'm not thinking that. I'm also not thinking that we're running to add the pencil Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Barnes will do this. He had 17 points. He had 4 rebounds. How did he get 17 points? Oh yeah, 70% shooting. So do not buy it for a second. Do not add him in 10 or 12s. Don't bother. 14s, no problem. Do it. I was also relatively encouraged by Jeremy Sohan's game. 18 and 6 with 2 assists is good. Now, I'd love some defensive stats. I would like it if he didn't go 71% from the line, but I think he hit his first 4 free throws, so missed a couple at the end. I believe Sohan is a very clear must-roster player in 12-teamers. The Horse, yuck. 7 points, 25 minutes for Keldon Johnson, 33% shooting. All that stinks. I don't think he's good. You know that I don't think he's good. I've told you I don't think he's good for 3 years, and nothing has changed on that. He was a streamer for today's game, but you absolutely do not need to roster Keldon Johnson in 12-team category leagues. Absolutely not. In a points league, you can if you want, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's awesome. And there's also a cohort of people rostering Trey Jones. Please, you don't need to do that either. Again, all of that sort of advice changes depending on your stash ability and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't need to be doing it. We're going to talk about the other side of the equation, the Dallas Mavericks. They get the... I didn't even tell you what the score was, 120-109. There was 5 or so minutes of garbage time in this one. Luka played 36 minutes. He had 28, 10, and 8. And this was another one of these things. And yes, we are going to talk about something that I'm going to bang on about a lot. Right? The way that people, whether it's fantasy analysts, NBA analysts, casuals, fantasy players, the way they talk about the way that if something happened for 1 year, it means that it's sorted. Not real. Luka's fixed his free throws, so yep, he's a guaranteed top 3 player. All right. But what if he hasn't? What if it was a 1 year thing? I am also not saying that he's going to be bad at free throws. And 75% is whatever. It is fine. But we know that Luka's volume is a problem. If you, instead of hitting 78 or 79, you hit 74. It's a problem. 1 year does not mean a fix. Hard to complain about the game. It's awesome, right? They limited minutes of a lot of other players. Kyrie had 15, 3, and 2 with 2 steals and a block. Don't worry about it. Klay Thompson got really hot, which usually he reserves for January and February. He had 22 and 7. I'm really impressed with the 3 steals and the 6 threes here for Klay. If you get anything like 3 steals and 7 rebounds, you feel good. It's a real bonus. What you want out of him is points and threes, and he delivered it. But of course, he shot 60% from 3, which has... And I don't care who is feeding you the ball. You are not knocking down 60%. It's not happening. At best, I'll give you 43. So, yeah, it's good. It's strong. We know what he gives. And he fit in really well. They started Daniel Gafford. He played 19 minutes. Derek Lively came off the bench and played 28. But that does not mean that is what it will be. Because Jason Kidd, who is an infuriating person to listen to in press conferences, and I'll tell you why in a sec. But he said that they're going to mix and match starters all season. They'll also sometimes throw PJ Washington and Maxi Kleber in to play center minutes. And in this one, Daniel Gafford got 5 fouls. So what would the minutes have been? I don't know. And even if you asked Kidd what the plan would have been, he would have lied anyway. So it doesn't matter. Gafford, you hold. 9 and 6 with a steal and a block's not great, but in 19 minutes, it actually is good. While Lively had 15, 11, and 6 in 28 minutes. Both guys need to be rostered. Paul Washington Jr., yeah, cool. 11 and 6, 2 threes, bad shooting. This is who the man is. He will have better games. He'll have worse games. He'll have a game where he goes 0 of 11. Very confident in that. He'll have a game where he goes 9 of 10. Pretty confident in that as well. He's a back-end guy. You can hold on. An interesting development, which I got wrong when I did the 240 game, and someone pointed it out to me. Shout out to that guy. Because I had Spencer Dinwiddie in the rotation. They said, no, it's probably Jaden Hardy. And you're right. Dinwiddie out. So, we don't hold him, obviously. And Jaden Hardy, 11 points, 3 threes, 20 minutes. Why is that important? Because if Kyrie's out, if Luka's out, Hardy's a guy. So he has worked his way to be that primary backup guy. Now, he wasn't the first guard off the bench. That was Quentin Grimes. Grimy, his briefcase, his haircut, all he got was 2 points in 15 minutes. But he was the first guy off there. Not much else going on there, I don't think, from the Mavericks' perspective. But yeah, that's okay. We got information. We got some interesting things happening. And now I tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when in the middle of the game you get a hunch, you can go check out all the latest stats. You can view the live play-by-play and so much more on that same page where you would place your bets. So open it up instead of having to go to different tabs and different apps and whatever. All the information you need to make informed decisions is right there on FanDuel. And when you are a new customer, when you place your first $5 bet, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Don't even have to win them. So head across to FanDuel.com, check it out, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, let's get to the next game. And yesterday when we did the game preview for this game, I said, what the hell is this? Why is Denver favored in this game? That is very, very weird. Very weird. They should not be favored. And that's right. They shouldn't have been. 102-87. The final score here as Oklahoma City gets the job done. Obviously no Hartenstein. There was also no Pig Williams and no Oklahoma City Mudflap. Kenrich Williams, they were all out. So Chesterfield Holmgren started at center and he took advantage. 36 minutes because there was no backups. 25 and 14, four blocks, 2 steals. Unfortunately, 3 of 5 from the line, but we love to see it. He only played 29 minutes a game last season, Chet. We knew there was going to be a bump in minutes, but we also thought that there'd be Hartenstein taking block opportunities, shots at the rim opportunities, and rebound opportunities. Not the case. He is going to cook for the early part of this season. Big numbers coming. One of the other things we wanted to watch was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and defensive numbers. Well, I guess we're okay there. 28, 7, and 8 with 3 steals and 3 blocks. But the other thing I wanted to watch is free throws. Now, of course, these are low sample sizes, of course. But he went 4 of 8. 4 of 5. That's 80%. There's a big difference between 81 versus 89. Now, of course, if you take 5 attempts, you can only hit 80 or 100. You can't go in between. But that's just something to keeping an eye on. They didn't start Alex Caruso. They started Isaiah Joe, who had 7 points in 20 minutes. We're not adding him. Cason Wallace, he had 4 points in 23 minutes. And Caruso, that's very concerning. Alex Caruso, the rabbit hunter, went scoreless. He took 2 shots. He missed them both. He had 6 rebounds in 4 minutes, but importantly, he played 19 minutes only. He had a 6% usage. He was a plus 19. He was great. But are we getting to a spot here where, look, I don't get playing Lou Dort 29 minutes and Caruso 19 minutes. I don't understand that, but that's okay. Dort, by the way, had 3 steals and a block, so if you streamed him in for the 3 games in 4 nights, you're pretty happy with that result. That's also another reason don't make a hasty decision on someone like Caruso, because they're the only team with a weekend back-to-back. But it is absolutely... Now, I will say this. If you are in a points league, Alex Caruso doesn't have any upside. Hold for the weekend back-to-back, but he is not anywhere close to a top 80, top 100 player. Not even close. So in a points league, after that, move. Done. See ya. But in a category league, let's see how they work it out. But that is very, very far from encouraging. This was a big game from Aaron Wiggins. The man who saved basketball only played 20 minutes, but he had 15 points and 2 blocks on 6 rebounds. Now, he was an unbelievable shooter last season. And he did it again, 78%. And again, nobody is that level. But he's shown a level of being a very good shooter for a little bit of time now. Don't make any silly ads. He's not an ad outside of a back-to-back stream. Sunday, back-to-back stream if you want. But that's more for deeper leagues. Don't overreact to this. The other thing we wanted to watch with this team was what would Jalen Williams, the Bronco, do with 3-point attempts? And he took them, so that's good because he averaged 4 a game last season. He took 8 here. Unfortunately, he only hit 2, so that's 25%. And his overall line is pretty putrid, to be honest. 12, 3, and 3. He did have 3 blocks, that saves it, but the efficiency wasn't there. He missed his only free throw. I would say his little audition as the number 2 guy didn't go particularly well. Chet also ramped his usage way up in this game. So how those guys, we thought it was going to be a given that Jalen Williams would do that. Now, again, there were some caveats to that in that Jalen Williams in the playoffs was actually pretty bad. Chet wasn't particularly good either. So we'll see how it goes. But at the moment, not a good start for Caruso. The team cooked. They smashed. Loved it. Big from Chet. Not so exciting from old mate, the Bronco. Speaking of Broncos, doesn't work super cleanly as a transition, but we are going to Denver, which of course is the home of the Broncos. So let's look at the Denver side of things. I knew I had worries about this team heading into the season. They started the lineup that we thought they would. It just wasn't good. And Michael Malone ran some really bad bench lineups. If you give Michael Malone veterans, he's going to play them. We'll talk about the bench guys in a sec. Let's just get big chungus out of the way. 16, 12, and 13 with 2 steals and a block. It's not awesome, but it's pretty good. Michael Porter Jr. had 15 and 8 with 3 threes. That is a pretty stock standard Porter line. Interestingly, he took 17 shots, which led the team. 29% shooting. Horrible. But the way this game played out, I don't know how much we take out of it, to be honest. The headmaster, Jamal Murray, had 12 points on 29%, which also stinks. He had 4 assists and 2 steals, and he played 1,000,000 minutes, which is good in terms of the knee, but otherwise the production was bad. But I guess the starter you want to hear about is Aaron Gordon. No, it's not. He had 12 and 9. Who cares? Christian Brown. Brown played 29 minutes. He had 16 and 7 with 2 steals and 2 blocks. And while that is good, I'm not going to deny that. That is good. We all know that 2 steals and 2 blocks is a completely fake thing that will not be a regular thing. We can throw that in the bin. The 29 minutes is interesting. It's 6 to 7 minutes lower than every other starter, which, again, we didn't think he'd get the full starter's minutes. But I will posit it to you this way. How many times do you think in a game that Christian Brown will have a usage that is higher than Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon? Because that's what happened. Him and Michael Porter, the same usage of the starters. I don't reckon that's a real good formula for winning, to be fair. So, yeah, 53% shooting is good. He missed all of his threes. The defensive stats are good. I don't think I would bother in 12s. You can. You absolutely can if you want to. But I don't think that I would. There is just too many things there. That doesn't make sense. Why is he taking more shots than Jokic and Murray? That makes no sense. We're not relying on the defensive numbers. He played 6 fewer minutes than the other starters. None of that is super indicative of great stuff. Again, if you don't want to miss out and you don't want FOMO, do it. I'm not going to stop you. But we have to look at it objectively. If you are a Russell Westbrook fan, you might want to log off. This man might be not the worst player in the NBA, but the most negatively impactful player in the NBA. What is he doing? 6, 5, and 5. All right, he had 2 blocks. Great. Shot 20% from the field. Had the highest usage on the team. Missed 3 of his 4 free throws. Is a consistent pattern. You give a guy like Michael Malone, a lauded veteran like Westbrook, he is going to play him. Often to the detriment of his own team. Nikola Jokic vouched for Westbrook. I want Russ. Do you, Nick? Do you still want him? I'm not saying that he was horrible in this game. I mean, I am. He was a team worst minus 24. He sucked in a, by the way, shout out to revenge games. He sucked. But he's going to get minutes. He was fine as a late round pick to see what they would do with the Brown, Strouder, Westbrook scenario. But in a category league, like, screw this shit.
Get that garbage out of here.
As for Strouder, he cooked. He was unbelievable in preseason. He destroyed Christian Brown and he had 6 points in 17 minutes here. Barely played, showing us that a lot of preseason means absolutely nothing. So you can go on and jack Strouder in 10s and 12s and honestly, probably 14s as well. Really hard to get much done when you're not on the court enough. The last game of the night was another one of those games where I looked at the Vegas odds and said something's a little bit off here. Why are the Kings favourite in this one? But this one was much closer than the other one. The Wolves still get the win on the road over Sacramento, 117-115. No lineup change for the Wolves from game 1. Let's talk about Goose. He played 39 minutes. Anthony Edwards, a little bit of a slow start for him, but 32, 7, and 4 is great. I love that he got 7 of 7 from the line. He got some free throws really late in the game to seal it. But 42 from the field is not ideal. Still not quite at the level of a first-round pick, but who cares? It's 2 games in, and we'll see where it goes. Still, we don't know where it's going to go. This was better than game 1. It was also better in game 1, or better than game 1 for the double royal Julius Randle, who had 33, 5, and 4. Now, this one, he got no defensive stats, but unbelievable 77 from the field, 2 of 3 from the line. This is really good after a disinterested first game from Randle. Gobert, only 3 points, is bad, and no blocks, but he had 11 rebounds, while Michael Conley, it looked like we were settling for another 20-minute game, but encouragingly played 27. He had 6 points, he had 4 assists, he shot really badly, but the 27 minutes is fine. He was 2 of 9. Now, he has had a history of 90% shooting and 40% from 3, 90 from the line, 40 from 3 over the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm not worried that he's all of a sudden a 20% shooter. The minutes going up are good. Instead of 2 of 9, if he's 4 of 9, add 5 points on. We're talking 11, 2, and 4. It's not ideal, but this is what a back-end player is. So I am holding Mike Conley. Jaden McDaniels didn't get into foul trouble. Guess what? Still bad. 6 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. You got the 2 quality games out of him. Now it's time to jack.
Get that garbage out of here.
Also stunk from Dante DiVincenzo. If you believe in Dante DiVincenzo as a rock-solid 12-team must-roster player, you don't move on here. I'm not sure that I do, so I'm actually a little bit more indifferent to it. Remember, this team has 2 sixth men, and he is the 7th man. I mean, he's one of the 6th men, but he's the 7th man. It is very, very hard. And we saw it in opening night where Jaden McDaniels and Conley played for 36 minutes. Combined, that wasn't going to be the case. How does DiVincenzo do enough? 9 points, 1 rebound, no defensive stats, 40% shooting. That is nowhere near a 12-team line. I don't mind if you give it a little bit more space, but there's this idea that Dante DiVincenzo is unbelievably good. What a steal play. He's so good. He had a really good stretch in New York last season, but he wasn't thought of that way in Golden State. He wasn't thought of that way in Sacramento. He wasn't thought of that way in Milwaukee. He's fine, but there's been a real, to use a term the kids would use, a real glazing of Dante DiVincenzo of late. And it's fine. It's not a bad game from the big Ragu. He was a +7 as well. It's not a bad game. But is there enough to consistently make him an absolute guaranteed must roster? I am yet to be convinced. As for the Wizard of Noz, big game from Naz Reid. Quiet in game 1, 19-13 here, 4 threes. That is a huge performance from the big fella. And, of course, with McDaniels and Conley playing more, Alexander Walker came back down and played 18 minutes. Also, remember, Rob Dillingham, 0 minutes.
Get that garbage out of here.
Shout out to the guy that commented on every single one of my draft videos telling me how stupid I am and how dumb I am for saying this is a bad draft class. It's actually unbelievably strong class. It's really good. You're going to look so foolish later on. And then he came back on a video a day ago and said the same thing. Bro, it's not good. What is your obsession with it? Anyway, I'm not talking to one individual person. This draft is bad. Dillingham, you do not roster him very obviously. I would think that's very obvious at this point. Let's look at the last side of this equation. It was your Sacramento Kings who lose 117-115. That is their first game of the season. And what we wanted to see was how things would look with the addition of DeMar DeRozan. First of all, you're all right, Mike Brown? Look at these minutes. This is bullshit. What is this? 43 minutes for DeRozan. 43 minutes for Keegan Murray. Now, I know the depth in this team is bad, but that's crazy. So, how did it work? Well, De'Aaron Fox got 11 assists, and that's it. Like, the others copped it. And I don't think that means that De'Aaron Fox is the assist hub now, but I think it means we're going to get wild and wacky numbers. Sabonis scored 24. He had 1 assist. He had 2 steals and a block, which is a real bonus. But if he's not getting 7 assists, well, he is not living up to his expectation. DeMar DeRozan, he had 26 and 8 with 2 assists. Got to the line 14 times. Awesome. Shot 39 from the field. Terrible. So did I actually get any answers out of this game? Not really. The answer we did get is that old mate Mike Brown decided that Kevin Huerter was a good idea to start. Now, that's obviously horrible. And this guy continues to annoy me, Mike Brown. Now, people say he's a good coach, and he is. I know that. But what is this stupidity? 2 points, 20 minutes, Kevin Huerter. Keon Ellis, who was allegedly the starter, played 11 minutes. Now, you don't roster either of those guys in 12-team leagues.
Get that garbage out of here.
Because it is blatantly clear that the best player, honestly, the 4th best player on this team is Malik Monk. So what do we muck around with this stuff? Keeping it 26 minutes. He had 7, 1, and 4. You're going to play these other blokes, almost said a rude word. You're going to play these other guys 43 minutes. You might want to get 34 or so into Monk instead of dicking around with this other nonsense. Anyway, Monk probably should be rostered. Huerter and Ellis, absolutely jacked. Get him out of here. What else do we need to look at here? Oh, Keegan Murray. That's an unbelievably good game from Keegan. I didn't know where he would get the usage. How would he get enough shots? But, he was great here. 23 and 11. 43 minutes is a lot of playing time. He had 5 triples and no defensive stats. His usage was still at 19, which is about the same as last season. But that is a much better performance than I thought we were going to get out of him. So kudos to him. We'll see where that goes. But I was obviously much more down on Keegan than that level of performance. So, shout out to him. All right, I don't know why that got me fired up so much. I just don't get it. What are we doing with some of these rotations, coaches? I know they'll figure it out. It just always takes a little bit longer to get there at the early part of the season. All right, let's do lines of the night. Monstrous. Close one, this one. Couple of guys right up there. But in the end, the answer to me is Chesterfield Holmgren. 25 and 14, 4 blocks. He had assists. He shot well. Unbelievable game from the big fella, Chet Holmgren. Obviously he is also your young gun of the night because, he's a first or second year player. So he gets that as well. What do you call it? What's the next award? It is the waiver wire line of the night. The guy that's available in the majority of leagues using our roster percentage. And this was also a close one too between 2 players. But in the end, I end up going with Bubbles, Julian Champagnie, 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks. He won't be this good most nights, but until Vassell comes back, I think there's an opportunity to take a flyer on him in certain spots. And your dud of the night, the worst performing high-rostered player. I don't think you'll have too many debates about this, but Big Al Horford went scoreless. He had 5 rebounds. He had 1 assist. Just a bad game. A really, really bad game. And in a points league, I'm not certain you need to hold him. Category league, I would. Points league, I wouldn't. Let's look at the top 6 players of the day across those various categories. First up, we look at the top 6 category league players. Number 1 was Chet, closely followed by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, then Jordan Poole, Nikola Jokic, Anthony Edwards, and Luka Doncic. Your top 6 waiver wire players of the day. These guys available in over 55% of leagues according to our advanced metric. Number 1 is Champagnie. Number 2 is Brown. I just gave you my thoughts on Brown. I gave them on Champagnie. I think I would prefer Champagnie over Brown, but it's close, and to me, they're just back-endish sort of guys. Aaron Wiggins was great as well. That's a weekend back-to-backer. Harrison Barnes, no. Bilal Coulibaly, the usage is going to be a problem, so points league guys need not apply. But for category leagues, assists were nice, steals were nice. The minutes are solid as well. Probably should be on a roster. And then Peyton Pritchard's the other one. Stream him in, but I don't think he deserves a spot. And that sounds rude, but I don't think he should be on a 12-team roster as a absolute staple. Your top 6 Yahoo Points League performers. Number 1, Chet Holmgren, followed by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. And in a big surprise moment, your top 6 players for ESPN point scoring, which I probably should have been doing because that is the scoring system in the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Jaylen Brown, Jordan Poole, and of course the double royal Julius Randle. That does bring us to the end of the recap show for Thursday. And if you like that, and if you're not a Russell Westbrook fan, you can go ahead and give a thumbs up. In fact, if you are a Russell Westbrook fan, you can do it as well. Give it a thumb up, give it a comment, leave that all down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.